Hi everyone, this is Sandra Kluge with Recording Tap, a podcast about the art, the process, and the musicianship of recording tap and other foot percussion.
The role for the tap dancer is often ill-defined. I feel like tap dancers can tend to have a lot of anxiety about whether they're doing enough and whether the stuff they're playing is hip enough.
Ian Berg, originally from Chicago and now based in Boston, is the director of the tap dance company Subject Matter, which works through both the dance and the music side of tap. So far, he has released one EP called Songbook with arrangements of jazz standards and one album with originals titled With Far Hand. Ian is a Berklee Global Jazz Institute Masters in Music graduate and is now an adjunct professor at Endicott College and Boston University, as well as a guest lecturer at Tufts University teaching tap dance practice and history. He has received recognition as a choreographer from The Yard, where he was named a 2019 Bessie Schoenberg Fellow, the Boston Foundation, where he was named a 2019 Next Steps awardee, and the Massachusetts Cultural Council, who named him a 2020 Choreography Fellow. Welcome, Ian Berg. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. I'm excited to talk about all things recording tap. And yeah, let's dive right in. And could you just talk a little bit about how you got into recording tap? Is that something that you've been wanting to do for a while, or is that a more recent thing?
The first time I ever recorded tap, I was in like a rock band in high school that I was the drummer in, and we had some songs where I would play drums, and then we had some other songs where we would do like bass, guitar, and beatboxing and tap dancing was the kind of configuration. So then we recorded one album, and on that album there was two tracks that had some tap dancing on it. So, and that was my first time recording tap dancing.
Cool. So did you start as a drummer?
I started tap dancing, and then when I was in like fifth grade, they had a day at school where they like brought in some people to help you figure out what instrument you want to play. My mom used to play flute, so I thought I wanted to play flute too. But the line for flute was really long, so I went to the percussion guy, and he did a little call and response with me with a drumstick on a drum pad, and then he was like, "Don't go anywhere. You're doing this." And I was like, "Okay." And so I was a percussionist for a while through most of high school. I did like like the classical percussion, marimba, xylophone, and concert snare and all that stuff. Um, and also played drum set um, as well. But
Cool.
I started tap dancing first.
Interesting.
Uh-huh.
Do you feel like playing those instruments was kind of your main way to get your music education, or did you have a lot of knowledge before?
No, that was definitely my main way to get my music education. I also took my AP music theory class at my high school. That was huge and instrumental for me. And then from there, that gave me like enough of the kind of basic literacy to when then I could like look stuff up and figure stuff out on my own without having to, you know, yeah.
Cool. What's the process like for you when you write music in general and also for tap specifically? Because you have your first EP is all standards, right?
Mhm.
And then your album is that all originals that you wrote completely yourself?
hmm
Nice.
they started as my own, and then there's a friend of mine who did a lot of the arrangements also, who we collaborated on some of the like expanding some of the compositions. Um, I I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. What I through my percussion like program when I was in high school, there was like a concert every year where they would have no percussion. So they just kind of sent us to do other stuff. And then so they had us do like a with absolutely no kind of guidance or anything like that. They just sit us in a room without windows with Sibelius for like 3 months, and they go like, write something. And we like didn't know how to do that at all. But so the my freshman year, we it was like always like a competition, and whoever wrote the composition that the class voted on, you'd perform in the like all percussion concert. And so I wrote a tune because I wanted to play drum set on something. So I like wrote a little piece, and then that won the competition and the thing.
Nice.
So that was like my first time writing and my first time performing like a composition of my own. When I started my master's at Berkeley, which was the first time I'd written stuff in a while. And that wasn't necessarily like a prerequisite for the program. It was just like kind of an expectation. Like you
Mm.
were going to write music for your master's thesis. And there were a lot of people that like maybe writing wasn't their thing, but like that is something that you're going to do for your master's thesis. So when I like started writing again, I like wrote a bunch of tunes that I was like, okay, these are cool, these are exciting. And then I tried to like start choreographing something to them or start thinking about dancing to them. And I was like, or like improvising. I was like, I don't want to dance to any of this stuff. Like, this isn't making me want to dance. This isn't making me want to like move. And even when I like try to pick standards, I'm always drawn to standards that I like the changes of. It's like really a lot about the harmonic content that like makes me feel like I want to play over them. And so it was finding like the right tempos and the right, meters, but really the right like harmony that makes me feel like I want to dance. And so
Mm.
a lot of the like for my master's thesis, there was a lot of the first round of stuff that just got like tossed. I was like, I don't want to dance to this. And then instead of like writing on my like little keyboard, um, and then going to the studio later, it was let me like bring like a 2 octave kind of guy to the studio, and then like try and do this two at the same time, so I'm not
Mm.
like getting all the way into an idea and then I'm like, I don't like this at all. So that was kind of an evolution of the process, and then through that there would be moments where I was like dancing and I would like kind of hear like a little bit of a melody
Mm.
in the choreography or in the whatever. And so then I would like go to the keyboard and kind of plug that, and like it became really symbiotic in
Mm.
a way that was exciting. A little like, well, the dancing is kind of, or the like dancing is kind of stuck, so the music can kind of progress, and then the music gets stuck but the dancing can and everything just like kept moving forward.
Hmm. That's so interesting. I feel like you can definitely hear that in the album with the originals is that
Mm.
it feels very like one thing. Like it doesn't feel like there's the music that was composed and then there's the tap parts that are over it or like alongside it. It feels very much like all the same.
That was, I mean, that album is trying to go after something really specific, which is like, I love the sound of
Mhm.
taps on a wood floor. And I feel like sometimes when people start recording tap dance, the taps are the first thing to go. And so I wanted to like, how can we like, what instruments can we choose that will complement the sound of the tap dancing, of the metal taps, and how can we like arrange around that sound, that like really short, like, high register sound. um and all of those tunes are like super through composed.
Mm.
There are solos, but there's like, sections that just like continue to grow and expand. And the idea was like, well, we do that when we make tap dance choreography, but like sometimes tap, like in a musical sense, like, like a percussion solely that is just like ongoing and ongoing, like that's weird. And that you don't get that a lot. So it's like, okay, how could we justify that with the arrangement? How could we
Mm.
justify that with like the composition and make this like, you know, growing, expanding tap dance choreography section feel like it makes sense as a piece of the music?
Yeah. Yeah. Does it feel different for you when you compose the music itself and then the choreography? Like, is there a distinction for you between composition and choreography?
Yes. I mean, I've been thinking about this in with like tap dance education too. Is when you like go to school for music or like study an instrument, especially like in the jazz context, so much about what you're learning about is like dependent on your instrument. And the way that like tap dance music is taught isn't really, it's not like you're not learning about your role.
Mm,
And that's also because so many of the like you walk into a room and everyone is playing the same instrument, so you don't really get the chance to practice like, okay, what's my job in here? Like, am I supporting, am I leading, how do I do this, how do I do that? Like, it's really just about like develop, playing solos. Um and so that, I think that's the interest, because in the group and on the record there's three tap dancers.
hmm.
And we tried with the panning to like I don't know if you listen on headphones, but like to distinguish between the different tap dance lines that are happening and stuff.
Yeah.
um and I don't know, it's so different. I liked, I think of the tap dancing equivalent to like the arranging and spatially is the staging, which
Hmm.
is like you're trying to tell the audience or whoever's listening what is important to listen to when with the staging, or what's important to look at when, what things are supporting, what things are taking the lead. And so I think that because the album is also like a fully staged evening length like concert dance piece as well.
Hmm.
And I think the two together, they're like moments where the different themes that kind of continue to arise on the album are also like matched with different staging motifs as well. So yeah, I think there's, they feel similar, but they're different because with when you have three tap dancers, it's the same. Like everything sounds the same between the three. Even like there are little differences, but like generally it sounds the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so curious to hear more about what you just mentioned about the role of tap, because
Hmm.
I feel like that's something that I think about a lot as well, both in like the educational context and in just like putting out music. Um, so yeah, could you expand on that a little more?
Um, I So when I went to my master's program, well, so tap dancers were like trained to do a role in a band, which is
Hmm.
like be the soloist, like a horn player soloist, which is right, but also there's other stuff. Um, and so when I went into my master's program, I was like very specific about, I was like, okay, for the first semester, let me not tell them what I think a tap dancer does, any of the teachers or my classmates or anything like that. And let's see what they, just from the sound of tap dancing, what they hear I should be doing. And when people write pieces and write me into them, what kind of stuff do they write for me? Um, and so that was interesting. A lot of I was also placed in an ensemble with the drummer that was like an octopus. He could play like every like like seven different things at the same time, and he sounded like amazing and groovy and loved to play on the rims. It's like, okay, so what am I don't
Yeah.
know.
What else
Um,
is there to do?
exactly. And so there was a lot of trying to get him to play less. He wasn't super into that. And then like guest artists that would be telling me to play less. Like, can you shut up? I'm like, okay. Or they'd be like, think of your role as like you have to come in, like that everything's building, and then it's your chance to come in and add this extra layer that is going to like elevate things to the next kind of
Mm.
something. Or just have like a really, think about you and the drummer as a section, and that you have
Mm.
like you've like kind of divided your roles, and you've decided who's doing what, which is the norm for most music with percussionists. There's like, except for like a lot of American music with the drum set, but like there's so much music that is, there's multiple percussionists and they have their jobs. I think like studying different like Latin music is important in terms of thinking about the ways that a tap dancer can fit into an ensemble, not as a soloist.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but also, I think there needs to be like, you need to be willing to have conversations, and then some with the whatever percussionist you're playing with. Um, and sometimes you just have to get lucky with like a cool drummer that is ready to kind of give up some of the stuff that they would be doing, in order to like play around with you, or just not have a drummer.
Yeah.
Uh, that was the thing. Kind of, this is kind of going back to the last question, too, but mixing, I'm like so about everything, and so mixing this album and finding like the balance we wanted with the tap dancing, um because we didn't want it to be an like a tap dance album, we wanted it to be an album with tap dancing, and so we wanted the tap dancing to sit in an appropriate place in the mix. And one of the tunes, my favorite one, sounds like it it has like a drum part that kind of has like a breakbeat kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, so the we like got everything to a place we liked, and then the guy who was mixing it, he sent me back a new mixing. He was like, I did some like this, I edited this and this, and I did some stuff to the drums, and the drums sounded really nice and bright, and the snare sounded like really snappy, which feels like appropriate for that kind of beat. But like that kind of like got rid of a lot of the range for the tap dancing.
Hmm.
And so then I was like, maybe the next one we just don't have any drum set at all.
Hmm.
Just like, a bunch of like percussion when needed. And which I think also, the more we practice tap dancing as like the main like rhythmic driver, the better time we'll have, and the more we'll be able to like really hold, even when we're like soloing, like, like solo like you're holding time for the
Mm-hmm.
whole band. um I think that would be, I think that would be really good for me. Like that I want to be like just like and like have just, uh
Yeah.
so yeah, I think there is an in the way that the role for the tap dancer is often ill defined. I think that there's some stuff to like work on in there, but also I think there's like an opportunity to think about like, okay, so tap dancing tends to do this, so how could we write music that supports that, the role
Yeah.
that dancing already historically does, and then also how can we work on doing this other stuff. I one of the like guest artists that was around a lot in my master's program was Joe Lovano.
Mm-hmm.
So cool.
It's amazing.
And we had a few lessons where it was just me and him. I was the only one that signed up for like the 8 a.m. whatever slot, and we just
Wow.
duo for an hour.
What a luxury.
Yeah. Um, and he's so nice and gracious, but he's one of those teachers that he'll like say one sentence, and then it's kind of your job to figure out what that means, because if if he elaborated more on it, it wouldn't. So he there's this one lesson this one morning. He said, I've been thinking about you. I was wondering what it would be like if you tried to play the bigger beat.
Huh.
And I was like, what does that
Yeah.
mean?
Very open-ended.
Yeah. And 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 so then we like talked for a second, and then he was like, okay, let's play. And we play for like 30 seconds. He'd be like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. So after a while, and that happened for like half an hour.
Hmm.
And then after a while, I figured out like because I was thinking also about like drummers that he would play with a lot, and someone like he used to play with Paul Motion a lot. And so like I was like, oh, imagine if like a tap dancer that had that kind of, I mean, obviously, like we don't have cymbals and stuff, it makes it a lot harder, and we have a lot less whooshy stuff than some drummers do, but like having the kind of time sensibility of like a Paul Motion where it's like so open but still like offering like a rhythmic center. um so that's something I'm working on still, to
Hmm.
like get that get that feeling, or like a Brian Blade or something like that, like
Mm-hmm.
but not, I feel like, but not like a necessarily like a tap dancer would play. He was, I in what we kind of landed at in the trying to play the bigger beat thing was he wants you to play less, like he wants you to define the quarter notes less,
Hmm.
and like
Interesting.
land on a downbeat definitively like every two bars.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I see. So bigger in terms of like zooming out.
yeah, like a whole note.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting. Huh.
but that doesn't mean playing less necessarily. It just means in your, yeah, in like groundedness when you're
Right.
grounding yourself. So that, yeah, that's been something I've been like thinking about a lot, and I always admired it, especially when tap dancers, when it's like up in the 250 zone, just when people have the discipline to let bars fly by, and it's just like, you know I feel like tap dancers could tend to have a lot of anxiety about like whether they're doing enough and whether the stuff they're playing is hip enough and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to like, let's like let the turn start, and let's let like four bars go by before you even do anything, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so real. I keep wondering why that is. I mean, I have some thoughts why that is, but yeah, I don't think there's any instrument that has the same like urgency of having to fill as many notes into the bar as possible.
Well, so we don't need to breathe in the same way that other
Yeah.
like players do and stuff,
Yeah.
and it's just, yeah. Some of like my favorite videos of Diane is when she'll leave the last like 2 to 4 bars of a phrase just open. Done,
Mm,
walk off.
yeah. Yeah.
So cool. That is like cooler to me than, because it's just like there's so much control there and so much like, I'm done. I said
Mhm.
the stuff. Okay,
Mhm.
bye. Like that's so cool. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's something I'm working on for myself in my soloing right now, is like, it is like taking your time, but it's like, how can I find like a different groove or a different feel or a different pocket inside of the thing that's already getting played? But I think there's a way that tap dancers do that a lot, where they like superimpose a kind of different feel onto whatever is happening, but
Mhm.
it's like doing that like like so zoomed out, where it's like you're barely playing at all, but that's implying this
Mhm.
other thing. There was we did a gig at one of the last Beantown Tap Fest that was here in 2019, and we were playing with this band, the like house band for the festival. And I brought this is actually an arrangement that's on the first album of Evidence,
Hmm.
And there's like a moment where it goes into like a backbeat kind of thing, and I had written all of these straight eighth notes on the thing,
Hmm.
on the drum chart. And he was like, "You don't need all of this stuff."
Hmm.
This is Ron Savage. He was like, "You don't need all of this stuff. You just need this." And he played like the most stripped down. He didn't even touch the hi hat.
Hmm.
And I was like, and it just like, implied backbeat or like, it was so good. Think about that a lot.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate you talking about all these points. I feel like it's something that I don't hear many tap artists talk about, because it's not really how it is conceptualized in a lot of environments. And I also appreciated what you said earlier about like a bunch of people playing the same instrument being in the same room. I definitely think about the same stuff where it's like you don't necessarily like even from how you learn your instrument, you don't start by putting 12 different drummers into the same room. You
Yeah.
probably won't
Yeah.
learn nearly as much as you do when it's just you and your sound. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, I mean, even if you've tap danced for years, I feel like there's many situations where you don't necessarily ever have had the band experience that you would get if you learned any other instrument, where it's like you have your
Hmm.
solo lessons and then at some point you're ready to get into a band and like start with your first rock beats and then maybe progress to the jazz band.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's very interesting to hear you talk about that as well.
I think the thing that made that land for me the most was also my master's. It was a lesson with John Patitucci, and I asked like the most tap dancer question, which was, I was like, "What do you do when you feel like you're out of ideas?"
That's so tap dance.
You know? And he said, he looked at me like I was like asked like something horrible. And he was like, "I always just tried to do what's best for the music." And I was like, duh, that's a stupid question. But that's like, in my like regular Monday classes, we do a lot of exercises where it's like you're improvising and someone's scatting something at you, and you have to be responding to that as you're improvising, just to get people in the, because like you see people tap dance, they're like, it's time to solo, like they go into the and like
Mhm.
it's like, someone could walk in the room and start screaming and they wouldn't even notice, like, because they're just locked in on doing that thing, and just trying to get people to like the drummer is like giving you all the ideas, and that like there's just like stuff flying around, and the more space you leave for them to respond to you, the more you're going to like have new ideas.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know if I want to say this, but I feel like a lot of times like people are like, when people set up trades for themselves with the drummer or with the bassist or whatever, I think that's great, but also I think sometimes you don't need it, because you could like really, if it's about communicating that you're listening to the band, you shouldn't need to have everyone stop. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
dialogue would be just as clear without it being like me then you. Like, I think, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think it's much more difficult to establish that same level of communication
Yeah,
when everybody's playing.
yeah, totally.
It requires you to approach it in a very different way. The
Yeah,
trading is like a very obvious way
exactly.
to
But I
communicate.
think, I mean, like, a lot of these like really great bands that played together for like years and years and years, like nobody's even soloing at some
Yeah.
point. It's
Yeah.
just it's like a vibe. It'll be like
Yeah.
kind of the piano takes the lead for like a bar and a half, and then this, like, it's like kind of, and that I think, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole other sensibility for sure. Um, in your ideal setting, or like what would you say is the default role, if you even have a default role that you take if you play with other musicians?
I think it depends on the instrumentation, the context.
Mhm.
Uh, there's a trio that I play with sometimes that's just me and tenor sax and bass. And that I think is the opportunity that allows me to be most kind of free in the different roles I take at different points. Um, but it's really as soon as a drummer gets involved, you have to you have to communicate really clearly, or you have to be playing with a drummer that you play with all the time and that
Mhm.
has played with tap dance and gets it. Um, in the on the most recent album, I think I wanted to kind of play the game of like, okay, what's like what's the most roles we could make the tap dancing hold, or like what are the kind of the different options. um and on we just got a really cool grant to record a third album.
Oh,
And
cool. Congrats.
thanks. And that one we're kind of going to expand the palette a little bit to some other, not like, tap dancing sounds that aren't with the metal tap.
Cool.
um, and I think that will open up all sorts of different roles too, especially if we get rid of the drum set. I think that will open up all sorts of roles for the tap dancing.
Cool. Yeah, for that one, you're not going to use any drum set?
I think, well, I've already written a few tunes that like post with Farhand that I really like, that feel like they need drum set on them.
Hmm.
Uh, so maybe just those ones will have drum set. I don't know. We'll see. We
Cool.
get to go on we
I'm
get to go
excited.
on 2 residencies to like write, and so that's gonna be, it'll be fun. It'll be a little more like, it's different when you like bring something to a rehearsal, like, versus when you're kind of figuring it out together in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exciting.
Which is because I'm a terrible collaborator. Because I love to, like, I just really, Sam and Jackson get mad at me about this all the time because I'll do this thing in rehearsal where I'll be like, okay, we can do this here or this here, and they'll be like, let's do this. Like, we're gonna do that and we were gonna do that the whole time. They're like, why do you even ask? And I'm just like, that is annoying, and I know that's annoying. Um, but it's, that I've found some like musical collaborators recently that are, they get it, and they get it in a way that it's not just like they want to play on the tap dance projects, but it's like they write stuff that also has tap dance in it, and
Nice.
use it in ways that I'm never like cringe about. They're like, they always have like ideas that I'm like, oh yeah, that's
Hmm.
that's cool, and I wouldn't even have thought of that.
That's so
So
valuable.
I know, right? And I think that's something that I've heard people express a lot, is like, why don't people call me for their gigs? And also I think about that with like, all like Baby Lawrence and Jimmy Slide and these guys, they were like around in, in the like post bop era, and they're not on any of these records.
Yeah,
Why?
that is the question.
And I do think there is something about the recorded sound of tap dance that is difficult to navigate.
Yeah.
Um, Especially when you have like a larger ensemble, or like, any kind of other percussion. It's like there is something about it that's like we had in my in my master's, we had a class where like on Monday mornings we would go in and we would record a tune with our ensemble
Hmm.
in the Berkeley studios, and then on Wednesdays we would mix them.
Hmm.
Uh, Very cool class. And there was a one of the like student engineers that was working the session. She sent my ensemble her mix of the tune.
Hmm.
I was in like one of the drum rooms. I was like in a ice like completely isolated. Um, she had mixed me out. She had turned me off.
Oh, wow.
There was a full section that was like a solo. Um, and
Wow.
I was like, wow, okay, that's that hurts.
Yeah.
Like, okay. But I like there is something, I mean, I guess, and that this is, we're really getting into the recording tap dance part, but like, um, there's something about recording tap dance that is difficult, and there's something about the receiving just the audio of the tap dance that's difficult, and not in the way that it's like I can't see them so I don't know what's going on, but like there's something about mixing it that is difficult to navigate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's maybe stay on that topic. Maybe first, when you recorded your two albums, did you have any specific sound in mind that you want the taps to have at the end? Or
Not on the first one. The first one, we're kind of figuring it out. The first one, we were all in the same room,
Mhm.
all three tap dancers and band, one room. So it's very live, and the tap dance
Yeah,
is everything else. Um, which is, it was it was, I've been told it was very difficult to mix and get like a really nice sound, especially for the tap dancing with that.
I would
Um,
imagine. It almost doesn't sound like everybody was in the same room.
yeah.
Whoever
Well,
mixed
but
it did a really good job.
no, he's awesome. Ryan Renteria. We he's also a recording engineer, which is cool too. We and he had recorded us on a bunch of different projects by Max Ridley, who is the bassist that is our musical director. And so he kind of knew, he wasn't like walking into it like tap dance, what like, he was hip. And so that when we were setting up to record the second album, oh well, first we recorded the first album all in the same room, because like a lot of what that album is about is the interaction between the band and the tap dancing and getting one sound as a group, um, which we could not have recorded that first album the way we recorded the second album. Um, the way we recorded the second album was completely different.
Hmm.
The
Tell me
second
about
album,
it.
we recorded the tap dancing like this time last summer, like in July,
Mhm.
and then we recorded the band in November.
Huh. Interesting.
Yes, and we recorded all of the tap dancing separately from each other.
Mm.
So we took like 2 days in the studio. We recorded all of the tap dancing. We recorded with like MIDI, because so much of it is through composed. That wasn't gonna like affect the vibe.
Yeah.
We recorded with a click and some MIDI tracks of the arrangements,
Mhm.
and then we recorded like an hour of different like rumbling and whooshing and like kind of different non like percussive tap dance sounds, but like
Hmm.
scrapes and stuff like that, just to have. And then in November we had a performance of this piece, and then we recorded in the studio the next day. um and I had booked the studio for 2 days and we did it in one,
Hmm.
which was cool.
Very
um
efficient.
Very efficient, and it would not have happened that way if we hadn't just performed it the night before.
That makes
Um,
sense.
but so also when we recorded the tap dancing, we recorded the solos,
Hmm.
like a bunch of different versions of solos, but again with the MIDI and with the click. Um,
Interesting.
yeah. So we first half of the day rhythm section, second half of the day horns, but then there's a few horn solos, and we had those horn players stay or come a little bit early to record with the rhythm section. And then I had already like comped all the tap dancing together, the different takes of different stuff, and then picked the solos so that when the rhythm section was recording, they were actually comping those solos,
Hmm.
um, which you can tell.
Yeah.
But it's that part, I think for the next one we'll do maybe a little bit differently, like record the solos live with with whoever is comping them. Um, and then there was like there's a whole track on the new album that was not, there's like the kind of rubato piece at the beginning, and then that theme comes back as just piano,
Yeah.
because the pianist was like, "Can I do a take?" And
Hmm.
he did a take, and it was killing. And so we were like, "Okay, so that could be a track." And then I was like, "Wouldn't it be cool if all that rumbling stuff we recorded like was complemented?" And so then that just like kind of another track emerged. Uh,
Nice.
so yeah, two very 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 different ways to record the tap dancing.
Yeah. That's so interesting to hear too, because I think I feel like I brought up this point in every episode of this podcast so far, is that there's no preconceived concept of how to record tap. And so I feel like everybody who's doing it is really figuring it out as they go along and experimenting with a bunch of different setups, and also kind of learning along the process like what kinds of sound results you get based on the different placements and the different, just workflows that you create for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's really interesting. um
There was a like on the first few takes of the mix, I was like, the tap dancing isn't sounding like how I wanted it to, and I had him send me back some stuff because I wanted to move some stuff around after. Um, there was like a fill the drummer played, and then when the tap dance came in, it sounded like the tap dance was dragging, but it wasn't. It was just the placement of the fill. Like, so I needed to move some
Hmm.
stuff around,
Mhm.
and also the thing that was really really challenging, the last tune is swung. The last two
Mhm.
tunes are swung, and because that recording the tap dancing separately from the drum set was like really tough, because there were a few times where there's some serious renegotiation that needed to happen between the two,
Hmm.
because we were swinging just slightly differently, and so that tune took a while to kind of figure some stuff out. um,
Did you
a lot
solve that in the recording stage, or how did you end up
in
doing
the
it?
afterwards
Oh, yeah.
thing, or in the, yeah, in like the editing. So we he sent me back this Pro Tools session, and I was like, the tap sounds so weird and flat. And then he had EQ'd it to like kind of, I think vaguely he was thinking like a toe vibe and a heel vibe.
Mhm.
Um, and I like turned off the I just like turned off the EQ that he had on there. Like turned off the plugin, and it sounded so much better.
Wow.
Uh, which is interesting, because I think there's a lot. I think there is a lot more kind of in the middle between the high and the low than we think there is, and
Yeah,
that's a lot of what gives the shoe its like character. You know.
absolutely. I'm
Um,
I'm
yeah.
curious, on a very nerdy level, what were the cuts and boosts that were on that EQ?
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember. I'd have to
Mhm.
look it up.
Oh, I'd be so curious to hear that.
It we also there like I don't know if you've ever had this problem recording tap dance, but we there's like one time we recorded something in pants that were like like too whooshy, so you like feel the
Oh.
pants in the recording, which like the other instruments don't have. That's like not a thing they need
Yeah.
to consider. Um, I had someone um, one time when I was recording, they put like a vocal thing, like shell thing around the mic to because they were like, there's going to be a lot of wind or
Mm.
like a lot of like air coming off off the shoes moving, and I was like, I don't think that's anything. Like there were about like from like the leg, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
Um,
Interesting.
or
I
I've
haven't
had
had the pants. I've had the shoes that are squeaking.
yes, that was also a huge problem last summer. Sam and Jackson both had to change their shoes like 2 days before recording
Oh
because
no.
they're so squeaky. I have a pair of shoes right now that I just am like I could never record in these. They're way
Oh
too
no.
squeaky.
That's
And
so
and
sad.
we were trying to figure out if it was like the floor because it sounds like sometimes it's like because our floors are sprung like and that makes it sound like it's like a creaking groaning of the like a ship or
Yeah.
something. But it's the leather is so weird. Yeah,
So unfortunate.
it is really unfortunate, and obviously none of these dance shoe companies think that they're making an instrument,
Right. Yeah.
and I don't think they would ever think like that. Which is fine. But what kind of shoes do you wear?
Uh, now I'm Capizio K360s.
What did
Yeah.
you
What
used to
about
wear?
you?
I wear K.
Before nice. Before that I had Miller and Benz.
Whoa, different.
Yeah. Very different. Yeah.
Yeah.
They served me well for a while, but I think ultimately I prefer the sound of the K360s.
I I like the sound of the K360s because I don't feel like they have a sound as
Mm.
much as some other shoes do. Like you could
Mhm.
listen to some people dance and go, "Oh, they're wearing blocks or they're wearing Sodankas." And with the K's, it really is much more up to the person who's dancing,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I could see that.
which is, I think, I don't know. It's also like trying to like make a sound for yourself so
Yeah.
that you could that was one of my things that I was proudest of on the first record is there were a lot of people that were like, "Oh, I knew who was soloing the
That's
whole time."
awesome.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, especially Sam. Like she has a real specific sound that you can
Mhm.
like tell her dancing, which is so cool. But I think that's hard to find.
Yeah.
You have to spend a lot of time like listening to just yourself dance to figure out what you sound like because I think a lot of people when they tap dance it's they almost never even hear themselves tap dance by themselves because they're always in a room with like 1,000 people and they're all
Yeah.
dancing at the same time.
Yeah. And then also what you think you sound like might not actually what you sound like until you listen back to
Yes.
yourself without
Yeah.
the video component and
Yeah,
suddenly
I
like,
do a
oh,
lot of that with my students is like, okay, can you go record this just audio and listen
nice.
back to it because it's so different.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so different and it's like such a it in some ways the instrument is less challenging because you don't have to play the changes, you don't have to like do this and do that, but in some ways it's so unforgiving
Yeah.
because just like the littlest bit of rushing and dragging gives a completely different vibe, especially
Yeah.
if you're playing on a tune that's like really straight. It's like it's really hard.
Yeah. And I also feel like if you play drum kit, for example, all your drums are going to be tuned in a certain way that if you hit the snare, it's I mean, there's some variety in what it's going to sound like, but like there's a little bit of consistency versus with taps, it's like a shuffle could sound like this, but it could also sound like a completely
Yeah,
different thing and
yeah,
occupy a very different part of the frequency spectrum.
yeah, yeah.
It's challenging to control.
It's challenging to control and like I think I would like someone to be able to like know what I'm playing just by listening to it.
Yeah.
Like hear a solo and go like, oh, yeah, that's a these are shuffles, these are cramp rolls, these are whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. From a purely technical standpoint, how did you guys record the taps in terms of like mics and mic placements? What kinds of floors?
So we have a floor that we made. It's like a full. Um, it's like the floor that we tour with to perform. It's MDF,
Hmm.
so like garbage leftover wood.
Nice.
But I
Very sustainable.
very durable. I love the sound of it because I think it has like a warmth that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, yeah, I love the sound of our floor. And it breaks apart into like 3.5 foot sections. So we just bring like however much we need into the studio. So on the first album, we had like a little kind of stage area
Mhm.
because we all three needed to fit on it. And on the second one, it was just we brought one board into the studio, and we recorded one at a time.
Nice.
We're doing like a condenser, like in an XY
Hmm.
on a stand with the mics kind of just like level with the like like a little above the lip of the floor, but kind of parallel to the floor, maybe a
Hmm.
little down. Um, there was something like there were some things we needed to record on the second album again because the board was like slipping back, and I was like, why is everyone getting like quieter and quieter and quieter? Um,
It's happened to me too.
yeah.
That's real.
Uh, and we've also like I also like on a carpet. I think that like dampens it a little. And then we also did room mics in
Mhm.
the room that we were recording in, like with just the one tap dancer. Um, I'm not a huge believer for recording or for live tap dance in a contact mic. I'm not a that's not my truth.
Mm.
Um, just because I think you're trying to get the sound of the floor and the shoe and not the floor.
Yeah, so just two mics for plus the room mics.
What's the remix? Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, because we're in a booth, so there was, we weren't competing with anything. And yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
maybe we'll try something else for this third one. Well, that's, thinking about like sand, like
Hmm.
how do we, what do we, what do we have to do to protect the mic? What do we have to do to like it's such a delicate sound, so we really got to get in there.
Yeah.
That I'm and what's cool about this guy Ryan that we record with is he's like a few weeks before we recorded the tap for the second album, I ran into him on the train, and he was like, I was having an idea about this, and I was thinking we could try this and this and this, and I was like, yeah, that's cool, like to have someone that's like, I was thinking about this, and I had some ideas, and I want to do a better job than we did last time. That's cool.
Nice.
You don't
Nice.
get that.
Yeah, that's definitely great to have. Yeah, what was the collaboration like between you guys and the recording engineer or engineers?
Um, on it, like chill. Like we have a really nice like workflow. We've worked together a bunch, so it was like a lot of yeah. Not in other situations when I've been with different engineers, they come in with all sorts of. We did a to promote the first album. We did a radio show, and they like went and found this contact mic from somewhere in their like warehouse, and they were like, oh yeah, I'm so happy we could find this for you guys. We like dug the and it's and on the actual show it sounded so bad because it was like it had like a huge plate on it, and it wasn't like attached to the board, so it was just like,
Oh no.
and I was like, if because but the guy was like he was so happy that he found it, and you could tell he looked for it for a really long time, and I was like, I didn't have the heart to be like, actually, could we do like something completely different?
Oh
Uh,
no.
but people have a lot of ideas, or people have worked with other tap dancers before, and or people have worked with other tap dancers before, and they did something with them that maybe I'm not that into, or they've worked with other percussive dance stuff before, and they think it's like the same thing, and maybe you should capture it the same way, and they also think it's tap dance too. So yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of work, I think, on our end to just keep standing up for what it is that we really want and need. And also like every tap dancer is probably going to want something different too. And like it's
Right.
not all the same.
That is true. But also, like in most of these scenarios, you're going to be the first time they mix a tap or mic to tap dancer. So it's like,
Yeah.
that is, you have like a precedent to set when you
Yeah,
walk into.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even more important, I think, also for tap dancers to know what they're talking about so that they can actually communicate with them and be like, actually, this is what I need. And even if they're insistent, it's like, no, I know
Yeah.
better how my sound is going to come out the way I want it.
Yeah. Like I do have, I have enough of a knowledge about what I want to sound like that you could trust me. But,
Yeah.
sound people can be like that sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. And for you said for the mixing, you sent it off, and or were you present for the mixing part?
We did a little bit of both. It's so difficult to get to like really get. It's, I don't know, because we really wanted to get a sound with the tap dancing that wasn't so like, there were a few mixes we got back early on where it was like there was tap dancing happening on the music, and
Mm.
that I don't want at all. And like the headphone mix and the mix on a stereo are like so different, because to me the headphone mix, the tap dancing is a little too quiet on the new album, but
Mm.
the stereo, it's too loud. So it's like, okay, like what are you gonna, there's not, okay, so maybe we did it. Like it's really hard to, especially because in a lot of ways you're like, fine, there's not that many mixes to listen to that have a lot of tap dancing. So
Yeah.
it's trying to, it was in the lead up to this new album that I would like went back and listened to the Baby Lawrence album with a different kind of ear, and I was like, there's so much reverb on the tap.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I only like really hear out of one ear, so I have all of my stuff set to mono.
Hmm.
So I set it to stereo and to like listen to these mixes with my hearing aid in and stuff. And then I listened to the Baby Lawrence album, and the mix or the panning on that is like crazy. It's so weird. It's like every
Yeah.
behind you, and then Baby Lawrence is right here, and it's like he's in a cave.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
that's so hard to, for me, just personally, because I don't really hear very well. It was like I kept having to send things off to other people to be like, does this panning sound like I can't, because I did all of the panning for the tap dancing,
Hmm.
um and then sent it off to be mixed, and I kept having to send it off to people and be like, does this make any sense? Like I
Mm.
can't. I cannot tell if this is working or not.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Baby Lawrence album, I mostly listened to it in my mom's car,
Oh,
and
it's awesome in the
that
car.
it was very but it was very present, like,
Yeah.
how he, like, moves through the space and suddenly
Yeah.
he's, like, completely behind you.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder how they recorded that. I wonder what kind of floor that was on.
Yeah, I wonder that too.
It's it's a the mixing thing is the thing that I really want to spend more time figuring out in the future.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it will be, for me at least, handled in the kind of orchestration, like before it's even recorded.
Mhm.
Just like get, because on the most recent album there was a lot of, all like a lot of the fills on the drum set were written,
Hmm.
and they're I scored like most of the drum set part. It's like written out,
Wow.
um, which is so annoying. To like, it's hard to find a drummer that wants to do that. That's like,
Yeah,
hey, yeah, I'll yeah.
it's a lot of
Um,
work.
it is a lot of work, and some of the stuff is really weird. So, because there's like in one of the tunes, there's like a whole section where it's trading between the three different tap dancers and the drummer, but it's in five and completely no regard for the bar line, like at all. And so when
Nice.
you like listening to the drum part, it's like this is so doesn't make any sense. Like when stuff comes in and like, but when you listen to the whole thing, it kind of makes sense. So like finding a drummer that's like willing to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sections with mallets and like brushes and stuff. But I think I want I want in the future to explore more drummerless stuff. Drummerless stuff, but still with the three tap dancers.
Hmm.
That part I'm committed to. And there was a moment where me we were like the three of us were talking about there being three tap dancers,
Hmm.
and Jackson was like, he was like, I don't know if it makes sense on a record. But then I it like when you have, because there is very little unison choreography with all three people dancing.
Yeah.
um but when you have that, it's like gang vocals. It's
Hmm.
like this, it brings such a different vibe, than just one person doing whatever the material is or what, like, so I think there is something to be said about that. Like I think there's,
Yeah,
you have to be really specific in the way you use all of the people dancing to kind of justify having three people playing the same instrument.
absolutely. And I think that's definitely something that sticks out to me about the sound on your album is that you can even, or especially in the unison parts, that there's this certain depth that you just can't get with, like, even if you were to record yourself three times, it would sound different than if you have actually three different people with different touch and different shoes and like everything.
What was also really interesting is when in the comping part, like when I first got back just the tap dance tracks, it was like, because we all recorded separately with the click, and there were some sections where it was like two on time
Mm.
that it sounded like phasing. So I actually had to take different tracks and like make someone rush a little bit more and make someone drag a little bit more to get like a
Huh.
full kind of sound, like create little flams and stuff, because it was like
Yeah.
just slightly off from each other, and it was like it like sounded weird, like a phasing kind
Interesting.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was also something that I had to like do a lot of work on in the unison sections, was like make it less unison a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. That sounds like a lot of work.
It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. Fun though.
and
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. Um, yeah, maybe a couple more questions. Do you feel like making these records so far has changed your playing in any way?
Yes. I think the writing has definitely changed my playing. In class, this comes up a lot. We're really used to feeling, as tap dancers, the feeling of like 8 bars or the feeling of 4 bars,
Hmm.
what that feels like to like play that length of time. But then, like, what happens when you get thrown into a tune is not any kind of like, it's not some kind of division of 4. Um, and a few of the tunes on the album are like the first one is like the phrases are 5 bars of 5. And so I and it's hard, like, there's no time to teach this in a tap dance class, but like if you could feel the like 5 to 1 movement, it would just it would make everything so much easier for so many tap dancers to be able to like feel the resolution of the tonic. We're going back to here, the phrase is starting over. And that in a lot of the writing of the tunes on this album, that was like I wanted to write phrases that felt like they were in. I've been trying to do less or more of this generally. Like start making something and then go, instead of like, okay, how many bars do I have left until 8? Um, be like, this feels like the end. Like, okay,
Mm.
this we'll start a new phrase here, and we're like,
Hmm.
6 months in. Trying to do more of that, and then just like find ways to, or even just like, okay, let's cut this here, and then let's like find a way to justify that in the harmony or in the whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that along with the like the bigger beat thing has kind of changed my dancing for sure, which
Mm.
is like, I feel like recently it's been a little bit easier for me to just kind of like, instead of like, um which is nice and feels nice and is exciting, but the hard part about that is it's really hard to feel like anyone cares or like hearing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
I
like
care.
it's so that part really gets me. It's like I'm working so hard on this thing that I think like only me and like 6 other people actually even are interested in.
It's
But
so real.
it feels so good to be like, oh, it's working. Um, but yeah, even if it's just working for me, that's cool.
But I
Uh,
think it will even show when you're not playing like that. Then when you go back to playing like a 4 bar phrase, your timing and perception of it is gonna be even more solid. So I think
mhm,
it probably shows through that.
mhm.
Hopefully. That's at least how I justify it for myself.
Well, also in trying to play like, like sugar boom boom bop, don't like every chord like that. Also, I'm trying to like get back a little bit more into that and have like
Mm.
a nice balance in my dancing between those things. Because there's also the like playing having the feeling that I was talking about earlier of like feeling really pocketed and really like a clear sense of like pocket and like pulse even while doing the like kind of zoomed out thing, is also like that's exciting, but I don't know. I keep saying I think that's what this album was, but I think like the most recent album was also like the more varied tap dance music there is that people can listen to will get their ears attuned to tap dancing in
Yeah.
kind of this different way, because I think there's so many situations where I'm like, I know what I'm doing and I know I'm trying to set this thing up in this way, but like there are like the band I'm playing with in whatever place or what, they're just not like ready to receive that from this instrument.
Yeah.
um it's like stuff that's, if you played it on like a side of a timbale or like on a ride cymbal, they go, oh, that's this. But when the tap dancing is playing it, they're like, what are you doing? uh,
Yeah.
that can be really like frustrating. So I think the more opportunities there are for people to attune their ears to the like the literal sound of tap dancing, the better.
Yeah. Absolutely agree. One last question. What advice would you give to tap dancers that want to get into recording?
I think, I mean, to get into recording, I'm wondering if there's like a way to get into recording, because I feel like the obvious way is to like start to try and play with a group and try and record with them. But
Hmm.
also, I think there's like, you can do that, like you can record even just on your own. Um, but I think, like, I think to get into recording, all of the other stuff is mostly necessary to like try and learn how to play in a group and try and learn how to like, be in an ensemble and do all that stuff. I think is the ticket into recording, because if you're just, that's gonna like teach you all of the stuff that's gonna help if you want to just record on your own too, both in terms of the like way you're dancing, but also in terms of the technical stuff, because there's so much stuff like, using like Pro Tools or Logic or whatever you use that is extremely not intuitive. And or like, picking microphones, like any of that stuff is, you're gonna need help to figure that out. And so putting yourself in the contexts with the people that know how to do those things makes a huge difference. Even like, I'm an Ableton guy,
Hmm.
and but nobody like records anything to Ableton. But so I like have had to become a Pro Tools guy, and
Interesting.
it's so different.
Yeah. Yeah. I use Logic. If you give me a Pro Tools or Ableton session, I would be like, okay, I need a few weeks to learn how to do this.
I use Ableton to write a lot, because
Hmm.
you can, like, I'll record stuff on that, the new version of Ableton you also can have video in, so I'll
Hmm.
like record videos of whatever phrase work or whatever groove thing I'm working on, and then you can, it like, it's like mostly made for electronic music and DJing and stuff, and so it's really easy to loop stuff.
Yeah.
So you can like set loops and bring stuff out and bring stuff in, and then the videos are just in the application too.
Hmm.
So you can click on whatever thing and like, oh, okay, yeah, that's how that step went, because at some point you forget. Um, so that I, yeah, that's like a way that I use to write a lot of stuff, and so I've gotten really good at using Ableton, and Pro Tools is like a completely different animal, and so it like, also, I'll say, I don't know if you do this, but YouTube is amazing.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
it's like, how do I like mute this thing?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And I'll look it up on YouTube, and it's some guy's like, okay, guys, and it's like a video of the thing and a fan in the background, and he explains it to you in 3 seconds. You don't even have to watch all the video, and you're like, okay.
Yep. Yep.
I'm getting a lot of questions lately about, this plugin, blah blah blah. So it's, and that like, it's so good. So I
I
learned so
100%.
much
Yeah.
technical training from watching like random videos by like Scott 368 on YouTube. Like, so
Yep.
good.
And he's probably doing really well because all these people are like, "How do I do this one little thing?" And then it has like 2 million views.
That's exactly, because it's, none of the stuff is intuitive unless you like
Yeah.
went to college to learn how to do it.
Right.
So.
That's so funny. Yeah, YouTube and also Reddit sometimes for very
Oh
specific
yeah,
problems.
yeah. Yeah. I haven't, like, I'm not producing enough on a lot of these applications to be running into problems that, like, aren't just, like, regular problems, which is like,
Hmm.
how how do I delete this? Like, that's my kind of
Well, thank you so much for sharing all this stuff. I
Oh,
really appreciate everything that you said. Super interesting to hear about your process.
thanks. That
And
was very fun.
yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to my conversation with Ian. To find out more about his work, you can visit his company website, subjectmatter.com, and his Instagram at ianberg67. You can listen to his records on Spotify, Apple Music, and Bandcamp. All the links are in the show notes. See you soon.